Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for more shocking true crime stories told in gripping detail. Your support helps us keep uncovering stories the world needs to hear. Dawn McAllister grew up in the quiet, tightly knit town of Cedar Falls. Raised in a deeply religious household by her grandmother, she was known for her good manners and ambition. She graduated top of her high school class and dreamed of making a difference in the world. Her father, a retired Marine, instilled in her discipline and the importance of justice. But life didn't quite go as she planned. Her mother left when she was 10, and the wounds never healed. After high school, Dawn couldn't afford college, and the military rejected her due to a minor heart condition. Left with limited options, she took a job at the local correctional facility. It wasn't her dream, but it paid well and offered benefits. Entering the prison system at 24, Dawn stepped into Ironcrest Correctional Facility for her first shift. The gray walls, the echo of slamming doors, and the sterile fluorescent lights made her feel like she was walking into a different world. The male-dominated environment was cold, harsh, and filled with unspoken rules. Despite her nerves, she quickly adapted. Her professionalism, calm demeanor, and natural empathy made her stand out. Some inmates respected her, others tested her limits. But she never crossed the line until she met Julius Blackwell. Julius Blackwell, age 29, had been serving a 15-year sentence for armed robbery and assault. Born in the inner-city slums of Detroit, Julius had a difficult childhood. His mother died from an overdose when he was 6, and he never knew his father. He bounced through foster homes and juvenile detention centers. By 17, he was leading a street gang. He was charming, smart, and dangerous. His downfall came when a robbery turned violent, leaving a gas station clerk paralyzed. Julius was arrested, convicted, and sentenced to Ironcrest. A chance encounter. Dawn first noticed Julius during her rounds in Unit B. He was different from the others, quiet, observant, and respectful. Unlike other inmates who catcalled or mocked, Julius offered a calm smile. They began exchanging brief greetings. Over weeks, those greetings became small conversations. He complimented her intelligence, remembered little things she said. It felt harmless. But Dawn didn't realize how deeply she was being pulled in until it was too late. Julius used charm as a weapon. He had done it before with other guards in other prisons. But Dawn was special, vulnerable in ways that intrigued him. He played the long game, offering her sympathy, understanding, even confiding in her. He told her stories about his past, sometimes truthful, often not. He spoke of regret, transformation, redemption. Dawn, lonely and emotionally isolated, found comfort in him. They began to develop a bond that breached protocol. Other guards began to notice. Dawn lingered too long near Julius's cell. She smiled more. There were whispers, quiet warnings from coworkers who had seen similar situations end badly. Her supervisor even confronted her once. Dawn dismissed the concerns. She was in control, she said. Julius was just someone who appreciated her in a place where respect was rare. But behind closed doors, she started taking risks, sneaking notes, giving extra food, bending rules. One night, while stationed in the infirmary, Dawn and Julius found themselves alone. It began with a conversation, then a touch. Boundaries dissolved. That night marked the beginning of a secret affair that would spiral into disaster. They met in hidden corners, utility closets, and the laundry room. Their relationship grew physical, passionate, and dangerous. Julius promised her love, a future, a new life after prison. Dawn believed him. Unknown to Dawn, Julius had been diagnosed with HIV 2 years prior. The prison's medical records showed it clearly, but privacy laws kept it under wraps. Julius never disclosed it to Dawn. Their unprotected encounters soon had consequences. Dawn began feeling fatigued, sick, and emotionally unstable. A routine medical checkup confirmed the devastating news: she had contracted HIV. At first, Dawn thought it was a mistake. But after requesting access to inmate health data, something she was not supposed to do, she discovered Julius's diagnosis. Her world shattered. The man she risked everything for had betrayed her in the most intimate way. She confronted him during a late shift. Julius didn't deny it. He said nothing, just stared with cold indifference. The warmth was gone. Dawn walked away numb, heartbroken, and furious. Dawn's demeanor changed. She became withdrawn, bitter, volatile. She stopped showing up on time, got written up twice for misconduct. Her relationship with family suffered. Her once promising career now teetered on the edge. Julius, sensing her unraveling, kept his distance. For him, it was a game he had won. But for Dawn, it was a war she was still fighting, against herself, the system, and the man who had destroyed her. Dawn began researching the law, digging into cases of intentional HIV transmission. But proving malice and intent was complicated. She couldn't go public without losing everything. Her shame and guilt kept her silent. She began writing letters, unsent, angry, emotional letters to Julius, to herself, to her dead mother. She started therapy but didn't tell the whole truth. Something inside her cracked. The idea of revenge took root like a cancer. Dawn began fantasizing about ending Julius's life. She rationalized it. He had infected her, ruined her career, her body, her future. What justice was there for her? She began watching his movements, learning his routines. She memorized guard rotations, blind spots, and camera placements. She waited patiently, calculating every step. Dawn acquired a weapon, a small, sharp piece of metal, smuggled in during a shipment. She hid it in the janitor's closet. Her heart raced every time she checked on it. One part of her screamed to stop. Another part, the louder one, whispered, "He deserves it." Justice in its purest form. She began rehearsing what she would say. She pictured the look on his face. She counted down the days. It was a stormy night, lightning flashed, power flickered. The perfect cover. Julius was in the laundry room, folding sheets as part of his work detail. Dawn requested to supervise. No one objected. They were alone. The door closed. She approached him slowly. He barely looked up. She said his name. He turned, and then she struck. The weapon cut deep. Julius fell back, stunned, gurgling on his own blood. Dawn knelt beside him, crying, screaming, shaking. For a moment, she wanted to save him. But it was too late. His eyes glazed over. She dropped the weapon and sat against the wall, blood on her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. Another guard found her an hour later, catatonic, covered in blood. Emergency services were called. Julius was pronounced dead. Dawn was arrested on the spot. She confessed everything, every detail, every motive. Her confession was chilling, tragic, and filled with raw pain. She didn't ask for forgiveness. The media had a field day. Headlines read, "Love turned lethal," and "Guard kills inmate lover after HIV revelation." The courtroom was packed. Dawn appeared pale, gaunt, but calm. Her defense argued emotional duress and betrayal. The prosecution pushed for murder. Medical experts testified. Her family wept in the back. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Guilty of manslaughter, not premeditated murder, Dawn was sentenced to 12 years in prison, eligible for parole in 8. She didn't protest. She nodded as the judge read the sentence. As she was led away, she looked back only once, at her father, who stood tall but broken. Her life had come full circle, from a prison guard to a prisoner. Dawn's new reality began in the same kind of place she once oversaw. Now, she was the inmate, street ripped of uniform, control, and pride. The guards who once worked alongside her now watched her with suspicion. Her fellow inmates learned about her story quickly. Some viewed her with fascination, others with disdain. She kept to herself, journaling obsessively. Every day was a battle to stay sane, to survive the whispers, the stares, the regret. Dawn began writing letters again. But this time, they were addressed to Julius. She poured out apologies, confessions, anger, and reflections. They became her therapy, her only way to face the ghost that haunted her. She often wondered, if he had just told her the truth, would things have been different? Would she have forgiven him? Or was the deception part of what made her fall for him in the first place? Her father visited once in the first year. The conversation was short and strained. He still loved her, but the shame ran deep. Her grandmother had passed away before the trial. Her brother refused to speak to her. She was alone, truly alone. And it was in that isolation that she began to finally reflect, not just on Julius, but on herself. On the choices she made. The red flags she ignored. The love she thought she had. The prison assigned her a therapist. Dawn resisted at first, but slowly, the walls came down. She began talking about her mother leaving, about her dreams, about the need to be seen, needed, loved. Through therapy, she realized that Julius hadn't just infected her body, he had infected her mind. Her loneliness, her unresolved trauma, had made her susceptible to a dangerous illusion. She began unpacking the layers, each session peeling back the pain she'd buried for years. After 2 years, Dawn began volunteering in the prison's health awareness program. She spoke privately with other female inmates about safe sex, manipulation, and self-worth. She never revealed her story, but her passion and honesty were rooted in experience. She also took college courses, working toward a degree in social work. It gave her structure, and slowly, she found meaning again. Not redemption, but a reason to wake up each day. At her first parole hearing after serving 8 years, Dawn appeared before the board. Her voice was calm, steady. She didn't excuse what she did. She explained it. The board listened closely as she detailed her journey, from trauma to accountability. After deliberation, they granted her parole. She was scheduled to be released in 6 months, with mandatory community service and therapy. Dawn stepped out of prison with a single duffel bag and a probation officer waiting at the gate. The sun felt foreign, the air too clean. She had a long road ahead, finding work with a criminal record, managing her health, rebuilding a life in the shadow of infamy. But she was determined. Her first stop wasn't home, it was Julius's grave. She stood in silence, then whispered, "I forgive you. But I won't forget." Years later, a journalist uncovered her story and published a feature. It went viral. Some people sympathized, others judged. Talk shows debated her case. True crime podcasts dissected her motives. But Dawn didn't engage. She had already served her time in prison and in her soul. One day, she received a letter in the mail. It was from Julius's sister. It wasn't angry. It was honest. The sister wrote, "He ruined many lives, including yours. But he was still my brother. I don't forgive you, but I understand you." Dawn cried for the first time in months. Not for herself, but for all the hurt they'd both left behind. A decade after the murder, Dawn stood at a podium at a university guest lecture, giving a speech on trauma, betrayal, and consequences. Her story, shared in vague terms, captivated the room. "I lost myself once," she said. "To love, to anger, to revenge. But I found something else after, truth. And sometimes, truth is enough." Years later, Dawn published a memoir under a pseudonym. The final chapter ended not with bitterness, but with a simple line. "I was a guard. Then a prisoner. Now, I am just a woman, living with a virus, a past, and a future she's still building." The book became a bestseller. And Dawn, despite everything, found peace in the life she rebuilt from ruin. If you found this story powerful or thought-provoking, please like, share, and comment your thoughts below. We read every single one. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss the next shocking case we bring to light.